What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Watch and Listen podcast. This is a show all about watches. I'm Matt Farah, and I do it with my buddy, Cameron Weiss, the CEO and head watchmaker of the Weiss Watch Company, making mechanical timepieces from scratch, yes, including the movements, here in Los Angeles. They are fire, people. Trust me. This episode is brought to you by Crown & Caliber. Crown & Caliber is the best place to buy a secondhand luxury watch on the internet, and you should really only be buying your watches secondhand on the internet because that first owner depreciation, that's a big one. You get a lot of value if you're the second owner, and Crown & Caliber has limited mechanical warranties. They have watchmakers on site to make sure the product you're getting is in good working nick. Use code WL150 at checkout. That's code WL150 at checkout and get $150 off your first watch at Crown & Caliber. All right, on this episode, Cameron and I are going to take you through the history of the world's oldest continually operating watchmaker, Vacheron Constantin. And we at Watch and Listen have a particular angle to take at Vacheron Constantin because Cameron actually worked there, so he has the inside knowledge. So here it is today, the history and watches of Vacheron Constantin on the Watch and Listen podcast. What's up, folks? It's the Watch and Listen podcast. We're winding it down. The last two episodes of the show that Cameron Weiss and I are recording together. Wah, wah. That's okay. We're not sad because we got a rack of watches here in front of us. It's a beautiful day. What up, buddy?
How's it going? I'm happy to do Vacheron.
Your beard
Finally.
is different since I've seen you last.
It's gotten longer. I don't have time to keep it trimmed.
You're more mountain man than before.
Yeah. Well, see, the German Shepherd that I've got hates electronic devices.
Oh.
Blenders, vacuums, beard trimmers. So I can't do it when he's around. And then when I've got the baby around, I can't take my eyes off of her.
So, is this what happens when you have a kid? You just start looking like a mountain man?
Yeah.
Just because you have no other alternative?
Exactly. I'm like the last person I think about now.
Cameron's baby, Genevieve, is very cute. Very cute.
Oh, yeah. There she is.
There she is.
And now she's crawling around, so it's even more work.
She don't look like you, buddy. I hate to say it, but she don't look like you.
I don't know. She's got my cheeks.
Your cheeks?
Yeah, those big poofy cheeks.
Now that you mention it, I guess, yes, she does have the cheeks.
But definitely the blonde hair and blue eyes is
that's
a little...
not... yeah, that's a big stretch.
We have no idea where that came from.
Yeah. Follow Cameron at, of course, Weiss Watch Company. He makes watches right here in Los Angeles. If you don't know that by now, I don't know what you're doing here, but maybe you just like Vacheron Constantin, which is good because that's where he used to work. Follow me on Instagram at The Smoking Tire. You know the drill. I write about cars and weird vehicles like the Sherp, which I just posted up. So, Cameron, Vacheron, you worked there, and yet it's taken on so long for us to cover this brand.
Yeah.
I find this brand to be interesting because on the one hand, it's old as fuck. It's like 260 years old.
The oldest continuously operating watch company.
And if there's anything we have learned from doing this show for 50 episodes, it's that there's very few of those.
Yeah.
The continuously operating thing. Just surviving the quartz crisis is enough to make you practically legendary at this point.
Yeah.
If you made it through the quartz crisis without having to make more than 2 or 3 quartz watches, you are like golden in the watch world right now. Like you're the stuff of legend.
Yeah, even all the big guys, Patek, Vacheron, they were all making some sort of quartz watch at that time. You got to stay relevant, and it's the future. They thought.
But they made it. They made it through the recession in the depression in the 20s. They made it through World War II mostly. So we got to go back to 1755. Before we do, though, what can you tell me about like? Having worked there, like, what is the real ethos of the company? Like, if you tell me, like, I pretty much at this point know if you like this is a Patek. I know those things that like what that means, or an Omega. Like, what does it mean to have a Vacheron?
To have one?
Well,
or
to make
company?
one, to make one, to sell one. What is that? What does it stand for?
So for Vacheron, it is the highest standards. Everything is held to the highest standards. It's unbelievable the amount of like things that they'll throw away because they're not absolutely flawless.
Oh, so
it's the highest standards I've ever seen. Part of the training, I went there and they had me disassembling and reassembling the same watch over and over again. And all they're looking for is any kind of little dust or any little, even a machine scratch mark on a hand or something like that that's there from manufacturing. All of that has to be thrown away.
So you take the same watch, you take it apart, put it back together.
Yeah.
And they see if there's any dust in it or anything like that. And you take it apart again, you put it back together again.
Yeah.
And they see if there's any part that didn't come out perfect that maybe wasn't even your fault, but that you didn't catch.
Exactly. It's things like, so on that particular watch, that was a training watch where the idea was to raise your standards to the highest level. Basically finding all the problems that most people will never, ever see on their watch and then throwing those parts away. That's
usually the difference between, if I can make a car analogy, that's the difference between, in a lot of ways, something very high-end, like a Ferrari 488 or a Lamborghini Huracan, something in the $300,000 range, way out of reach for most people.
Yeah.
The difference between something like that and a Koenigsegg, which is like $2 million, the difference is a Koenigsegg, if you take the headlights out of the housings on a Koenigsegg, the carbon fiber behind the headlight that only the tech will ever see, the weave matches as well. The two panels, the weave matches perfectly there. Like in places that customers physically cannot see, they still make it perfect. That's that level of real crazy.
Yeah, and that's exactly how Vacheron is. Everything from manufacturing to repairs, it's the highest level of watchmaking I have ever seen. And I've seen quite a bit.
to Patek. Do you think it's actually even higher?
I think it's far higher.
Really?
Yeah, far higher.
What's that degree of difference between a Patek and a Vacheron?
Well, for one, Patek is producing over 60,000 watches a year. Vacheron is producing about 23,000 watches a year.
Okay.
They're right down the street from each other. But Patek is very automated in a lot of things that they do, so they can have a high volume. That's a high volume for a very fine watch, whereas even 23,000 is a high volume for a very nice fine watch.
It's still not a tiny number. I mean,
it's still not a tiny number.
You're not talking about like George Daniels, where he makes like 6.
Yeah.
Or even like a FP Journe, where it's like a couple
thousand,
hundred or a couple thousand. I think Richard Mile's up to maybe 4,000 or 5,000 watches a year.
Yeah,
that's crazy for like $75,000 and up watches.
Yeah.
So 23,000. It sounds like it's both not a lot and a lot.
Yeah, in the scheme of the fine watch world, it's a high number.
Yeah.
But in the scheme of the watch world overall, it's a very small number.
Here's why I think I'm confused by this brand. And we'll get into the history in a second. The history, for as long as it is, there's actually not that many milestones to cover, believe it or not. But I think it's weird that it's managed to like evade pop culture. Like I've never heard a rapper talk about it. Like, and it's not a point against, but like it's interesting how a company like let's go Richard Mille, if you want to really be up my dick about it. Richard Mille, I'm American, fuck you. Maybe they make a quarter of the watches Vacheron makes, but it's so much more in the pop culture because of the urban adoption of it and whatnot, and Instagram and whatever. Like, I follow a lot of watch Instagrams, and I don't see a lot of Vacherons. Like, why is that?
Well, Vacheron isn't necessarily expensive just to be expensive. There are companies that are expensive just to be expensive so that they can be seen as a luxury product.
Are we looking at Jacob?
Yeah, of course. I mean, some of their things are way off the wall and completely unique, so the R&D that goes into it is a lot of money.
Yeah, but they also make a regular-ass watch that costs a ton of money.
Yeah, and those they'll sell just because the Jacob & Co. name on it.
Yeah.
Whereas Vacheron, it's a little different. It's one of those things it's for the person who likes watchmaking and really enjoys the craft, has plenty of money, but doesn't necessarily want to have the same watch that everyone else has, or even have other watch people recognize the watch.
Yeah, like I'm pretty eagle-eyed watch spotter at this point. When I walk around, and whether I'm watching a movie or I'm sitting at a restaurant, or especially at the Delta First Class Lounge.
Yeah.
Like the Delta Sky Club is like my watch spotter's dream, because it's like 90% Submariners and then a bunch of fucking dope shit. But I got to be honest, like I don't see them.
It's very rare.
They're like invisible. When someone is wearing them, they're wearing one in such a DL manner that I almost never see it.
Yeah, they're not the flashiest people.
Interesting.
They're not trying to have a flashy watch usually.
So let's learn about the history a bit. It was founded in 1755. Jesus, it's old.
Yeah,
it's
what's
really,
that? 269 years old. 264 years old.
Yeah, 64.
Right?
264. This is the oldest known watch made by Jean-Marc Vacheron, first known pocket watch. It's very pretty. I like the hands a lot, actually. These kind of like exploding star hands.
So this is back before they were the same that they are today. Obviously, it was without the partner.
Yes,
so it was just Vacheron.
Correct. It Constantin came along later.
It's a good way to date Vacheron watches. Mm-hmm. If you're getting into the older stuff, like pre-1970s, you can look at the logos, and you have the Vacheron logo, you have the Vacheron and Constantin logo, you have. Then it switches to just Vacheron Constantin.
Like Tudor with the roses and the tigers.
Exactly,
and all that shit. Yeah.
So you can find charts online that show all the different logos to help date like some of the pocket watches and the old stuff.
1755, that feels like, it's one thing, like that feels to me way older than the 1800s. I mean, this is a dumb thing to say, kind of, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like so much like.
And it was.
In terms of fine machinery. You know what I mean? It's like, 1850s. Okay, there's trains and like steam cars and like some industrial machinery. Like 1755, like there's like really like they're
in
fine watchmaking.
1755, these guys were hand cutting and hand filing blocks of metal. They were hand drilling holes through them and making their own lathes.
Yeah, like there wasn't a machinery to make any of this shit.
Exactly, they made their machines. So all the machines are handmade and absolutely gorgeous.
In fact, in 1839, they invent like the most clutch machine ever. But that's like we're talking like 80 years after this. They figure out how to do a machine.
If you look at that, you can see a little square on the front where the key
right here. Right.
So that little square where you're actually securing the hands, that would have been filed by hand. You have a file and you're filing a perfect square by hand. On the tip of that tiny little part.
That's a square from a circle, presumably, right?
Yeah, so they would have had a circle piece, and then they're filing the square. But things like that, those hands all hand cut.
Crazy. Jean-Marc takes over 30 years later. He gives it to his son, Abraham, takes over. And they survive the French Revolution. Yay. And he hands it down to Jacques Bartholomé Vacheron in 1810. This guy, he looks gangster. I like these 1800s. By the way, Vacheron's website for their history is great. Just like their UI on this website is really dope, except the picture has vanished. But that was it. Where are we? 1790, they add the first complications to a pocket watch. It was a calendar. And in 1810, they produce a chiming musical pieces for the royal clients. In 1819, Vacheron partners with Francois Constantin. Hey, website, how about you fix yourself? There we go. Thank you. Francois Constantin looks like a boss. He looks like he drinks about 3 bottles of wine a day.
Well, he's the sales guy, so he's out there, he's schmoozing,
Yeah, he's not filing tiny little posts down. This guy's like, how drunk do I have to get him to spend?
No, he's like horse and carriage, riding around with a bag full of watches and selling them all over the world.
But Constantin also coins this phrase, do better if possible, and that is always possible. And that's the thing. That's the Vacheron thing.
Yeah, that's what we worked on. Everything was make it better and be as best you can. Just improve everything.
There is always better. They come up with the first jump hour pocket watch in 1824. It's pretty cool. It's like
very cool.
And for 1824, may I say that this jump hour indicator is really Art Deco and rad.
Yeah, and you see the guilloche that they have on the dial?
Yeah.
The two different decorations?
Super fine. Oh,
So
actually, that's hand. They don't have a machine for that, do they?
Well, they invented a machine that does that.
Oh.
So they also had hired another guy who, Lachot, I think is how you say it. But he was an inventor. He invented a bunch of things. But while he was with them, he was inventing things for them in the watch industry.
Yeah, he doesn't show up until 1839 in my notes, but Lachot.
Yeah, well, that was
Georges
when
Lachot.
he made a big invention at that point that was very famous in Switzerland.
Well, we can go straight to it, actually. In 1839, he invents the Pantograph, which is this thing right here. Cameron, what the fuck does this do?
So he invented a pantograph device. So the pantograph already existed, but it was used for like drawing and copying books, you know? So you could write one thing and it'll actually make 10 copies of a book or something.
Oh, okay.
What he did...
For if you're handwriting.
Yeah, exactly. So the technology already existed for that.
Oh, so you would basically write with this armature as your pen, and it would repeat that motion
over here
and make copies, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So what he did is he took that simple idea, that structure, he beefed up all the arms that you see here and put it on a very sturdy table, and then he attached a milling machine over on the right-hand side here, a small milling machine. So then he'd create by hand a large plate. So let's say he's making a main plate. He'd create a large one that fits that gold circle there.
Yeah.
Then he would trace the features, like maybe a hole or a little engraving or something that's on there, and it would automatically be put on the other one.
And it would miniaturize it to the size of the watch.
Exactly.
So it's shrink and mirror.
Yeah, so he could do that, or he could have a technician do that all day long and copy the large one every single time exactly the same.
Oh.
So it was like the first kind of industrialized production that was repeatable.
It's like repeated tracing.
Yeah.
Basically. That's
so it was
real cool.
a pretty important invention for Switzerland.
The significance of it in my reading is that it made parts interchangeable. You don't have to make every watch like it's the first time you're making it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That is not something like... That's how you know how old this fucking company is. Like, you couldn't even just like... It's not like, oh, this has the 1512 movement. It's like, this has... Dave's movement.
Yeah, exactly. Dave made this, and who knows what sizes are for everything in this.
Exactly. Where are we here? In 1869, they have the first pocket chronometer, a very pretty pocket watch. At this point, right, 1869, chronometers, the most like precise watches, are actually like clocks on ships and shit, right?
Typically, you're also going to have
bigger
like
clocks.
Or very wealthy individuals could purchase them. But everything's being sent out in order to be verified by the observatories to make sure that they are indeed accurate.
So they made one that is a pocket watch.
Yeah.
In 1875, they won some precision contests very early on for the the trials, the observatory trials.
Yeah.
And then they opened this sweet new factory in 1875. Is this still around? This is still around, right?
Yes, it is.
This is like the Classic Center or something now?
So you have this building here on Quai de Lille, and that building was the original factory or whatever. Then they ended up putting a boutique in there. Now Frank Mueller owns the building.
Oh, really?
But Vacheron still has the boutique in there, I believe.
Okay.
I think a certain portion of it. But
so
there's also a Frank Mueller
making
boutique.
Watches upstairs?
Nobody's making watches there anymore. The upper floors are actually like investment bankers and offices.
Oh, okay.
But the bottom floors are still watch related.
Oh.
And Vacheron still has a boutique in that same building. So that's pretty amazing.
Excellent. 1880, they adopt the Maltese Cross. Where is the Maltese Cross? Well, give us a watch. Throw a watch under the
yeah.
under the cam, so we can show the current Maltese Cross.
Oh, man. How does that look? I can't see the monitor right now.
It's a little light.
A little light? All right.
But we can zoom in on the Maltese Cross. Hit that focus button before I torture everybody with out of focus.
There we go.
It's very pretty on the Overseas we've got here. We got some nice watches from Crown and Caliber today. It's the watches we got are so dope that even though there were only 6 of them, they came in 2 different boxes. That's not normal. Normally it's like 20 in a box. They're like, 6, two different boxes.
Yeah, brand new Vacheron starts around I think $16,000.
Yeah. 18. Where am I? 1889. Check this out. This thing is really cool. In 1889, they come out with a ladies' wristwatch. Because remember, wristwatches were for ladies first.
Yeah.
And this has the winder is the bezel. The bezel spins, and that's how you wind it. Because a crown was so uncouth.
Yeah.
It would ruin the look. I'm not usually I don't want to wear this, but that is extremely dope.
Yeah.
For a ladies' watch. Usually ladies' watches are like not very cool. In the same way girls lacrosse isn't as cool as guys lacrosse. It's not their fault. They were handed a sucky sport. But that is pretty amazing.
I'm not sure if it's this particular watch, but at one of the, I think it was a World Fair or something like that, there was a Fabergé egg that won some huge awards.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a ladies' watch inside of the egg.
Yes, that I don't know if it was this watch, but they did mention that the 3rd ever Fabergé egg came with a Vacheron ladies' watch inside.
Pretty wild.
Let's see. In 1906, they opened their first boutique, which I believe is in the ground floor of that building you were talking about, right?
Yeah, and it's still there today.
And does it still look like this?
It's been updated.
This would be pimp.
Yeah, it would be very cool.
They should go back to, especially with these just giant safes on either side of the door.
Right.
I went to a secondhand seller guy's place once, and I went in the back, and he was like, "You want to see the safe?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do, actually." And when I went and he opened the safe, it was like a filing cabinet. All the watches were in these little plastic
envelopes,
guys. Yeah. And it was like just thousands and thousands of watches just in these filing cabinets.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. It was like, there's like millions of dollars in this thing. I bet that's what this Vacheron boutique safe is like. Let's see. In 1907, we've got these beautiful pocket chronometers. They've got Corps of Engineers watches. And then wristwatches. 1921, the American market wristwatch for drivers and aviators. And we actually have the modern version of it here.
Yeah.
So this thing is on an angle, which is kind of a bummer if you're like me and wear your watch on your right hand because they only make the angle in one way. Oh, we got to zoom out.
Oh, yeah. It's a big watch.
It looks big on the screen. It's not actually that big. What is that, like a 42 maybe?
I believe
41
so.
or 2. It's like 41 or 2, but it's pretty flat. So it's not like it's not like a big beefy watch. Are you wearing? What are you wearing?
So I have a 42.
Yeah, next to the Weiss watch. So
it's not that big. Yeah.
And your watch is not a huge 42 either.
Yeah.
Your watch is a slim 42, if we could call it that.
Yep.
I love the idea of the tilted dial. Like, I think so if you're wearing it on your left hand, it's
hands at 10 and 2.
It's hands
right?
at 10 and
Yep.
2. Yeah, if you're driving, it works.
Exactly.
If you drive underhand, it doesn't work so
then it'll
much.
be sitting like this in front of your face.
How much do you think Vacheron would charge for me to ask them to make one that goes the other way?
I feel like I had this discussion with someone before who either was able to get one or they were working on it currently.
Really?
Yeah, so I believe it has been done.
Oh, because you'd have to basically turn the whole thing. Actually, because these lugs are on the end, so Vacheron wouldn't really have to change the case, right? Because the case is symmetrical. They would just have to change the side that the lugs are mounted on.
Yeah.
Or am I making that up?
It would be a different case. It would be a custom case.
Oh, okay.
Just because of the way all the tooling is made. So it would be a custom case. They'd have to flip some tooling and do some mirror type stuff.
I would love to see them do the throwback Corps of Engineers dial on there. That's rad.
Yeah.
Let's see. In 1936, where are we going? Where's the 30s here? Stock market crashes. They survive it. Thank God. In 1936, Charles Constantin becomes the head of the company. It's the first time in almost 200 years, 179 years, that a Constantin has run everything instead of a Vacheron. In the meantime, they've made a beautiful Grand Complication pocket watch. Is this the first Grand Complication pocket watch?
No.
Okay.
Audemars Piguet has been making them for a very long time.
Oh yeah, we covered that.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it's been since we've done this. I'm sorry. I apologize.
And I'm pretty sure that they were making them before that. I think they were making them in the 1800s.
Okay. Point taken. Let's see. 1940. Someone named George Ketterer acquires a majority stake in the company. Do you know anything about this point of the history? This kind of corporate-y takeover?
So the company was sold a couple times, basically, to investment groups. And it ended up in, I think it was a Middle Eastern prince or something, or king.
Yeah, it eventually did go to like a Saudi king or something.
Yeah, a watch collector bought it and put it in his investment.
Oh yeah, wait, hang on. The oil minister of Saudi.
Okay,
I didn't write his name because it was a crazy name. But in 1987.
Yeah, at that point they were not doing so well. It was really, he saved the company basically. He loved watches.
He was just like a fan.
Big fan, and he did not want to see the company disappear, so he bought it. He just wrapped it up in his investment portfolio and kept it alive.
We're jumping ahead. We're jumping ahead 30 years. Let's go back to the 50s real quick. They get in the ultra thin game. This becomes the thinnest ever manual movement, 1955, 1.64 millimeters. It's as thin as a 20-cent coin.
Yeah.
Crazy thin.
Crazy thin.
What's the Altiplano at now?
It's thinner,
but it's still in the ones, right? They haven't. It's still like 1.4 or 1.5 or something.
We should look it up. Let's get that just for.
We're at very incremental. Let's see, Altiplano thinnest. Let's see. The world's thinnest movement is.
So that's the watch is 4.3 millimeters.
Wait, hang on. That's automatic watch. Is there a manual? World's thinnest. Did they make a manual, Altiplano? The thinnest mechanical watch in the world is... this is from 2015. Give me a number. 4 millimeter watch. 3.65 total. But what's the movement? Come on, people. Hodinky's really letting us down here.
Yeah.
Damn. It doesn't say. It actually doesn't say. Weak. All right. Well, let's assume it's still in the ones.
Yeah.
If the watch is 3.65, it's definitely in the ones.
Yeah. Anyways, it's crazy thin. It's like the size of a nickel, except there's over 100 parts in it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That was so when I was in Switzerland working for Vacheron, that was one of the movements that was considered special training for ultra thin. Because it is so thin, all the parts will bend very easily. Everything has to be so perfect, just absolutely flawless for that watch to run well. Because
every piece is like just that much more susceptible to that flexing force.
If something is just a little crooked or a little off or a little bent, a little warped, anything like that, maybe some heat warped apart, you have to replace it. It has to be flawless when you put that watch together. If there is any problem that the watchmaker didn't notice or any problem with oiling, that watch is not going to run right. It's one of the hardest thin watches to work on.
When they get old, if you have to work on one of those ones from the 50s, is it worse?
Oh yeah, because chances are they've been touched by a watchmaker who's not qualified.
Yeah,
and also at that point you have a different regulating organ in it. You do not have an anti-magnetic like Niverox hairspring or whatever. You don't have these new alloys, so you have an older alloy which is not going to keep as good a time anyway.
If you service it, they wouldn't replace that with a modern one, would they?
No, you wouldn't be able to. There's too many modifications that would have to take place to do it.
But they have new old stock or whatever?
Yeah. So those are old carbon steel blue hairsprings on the old ones, which are very delicate they don't have the same tension, so the balance wheel hangs a lot, and if that thing gets tangled, it's bad.
In 1972, they win the Diplôme du Prestige de la France. It's basically a science award for innovation, but this is the first time a watch company has ever won it, so that makes it very important. 77, they come out with a watch called the 222.
Yes.
222. It's the predecessor of the Overseas that they make now. This is a fucking really good-looking watch.
Yeah.
You ever see these around?
I've seen one before. They're quite rare. So they came out after the Royal Oak and the Nautilus, and also the IWC Engineer.
Is it Genta?
This is not a Genta design.
watch.
This is a
Clearly inspired by.
What is it? Jorg Heisek, I think is how you say it. So he was another designer that created this design, but same idea. They wanted to have something that was integrated stainless steel, very high-end finishing. So the 222, the reason it's the 222, it was their 222nd anniversary. So that's why it was named the 222.
I really like the symbol on the case here. That
Right.
For some reason, that's just a really nice detail that I like.
Yeah.
It's a really good-looking watch. And let's see. Then we have the Overseas, which shows up way later in 1996. And I'm wearing the new Overseas, which as soon as Cameron took this thing out of the box, and I looked at it, I went, oh my God. And I immediately texted Crown and Caliber and I said, may I demo, please? Because this is the new Overseas chronograph and it rules. What's the deal with this thing?
So this was a really nice redesign for the Overseas, especially because they got the in-house chronograph in it. But you also have some really cool strap changing. So rather than having to have screws or a pin or anything, you just have this little part, and you can pop the link right off there.
Oh,
it's like
no
a little
way.
lever.
Really?
So you can switch it over to a rubber strap or a leather strap really easily.
Do the rubber and leather straps have the same kind of like quick release thing?
Exactly. They have the same quick release. So without a
one of
spring
our
bar tool
other
and without
ones?
screws.
Does that one?
So this one is not
Okay.
the new one.
That's the older one? Okay.
Exactly. So this is the older one. So you see how it has, you can see here,
That one has normal.
you see the screws on the gold case?
Yeah.
At the lugs, there's no screws on the other one. So you don't have to deal with that now with the current ones. This chronograph movement, though, was in the works when I was at Vacheron. They were prototyping it, and it just came out, like, I think last year. I believe it was last year that it got released. So it takes a very long time to create an in-house chronograph.
And what is it? Is it a module on a base movement, or is it an integrated thing?
This is fully integrated.
Okay. So is that why it's pretty thin?
Yeah, it's relatively thin.
For chronograph?
You can also see, if you zoom in, and I get this just perfect through
Where
there.
are we at?
So zoom in through the bracelet, like
Okay.
right in the center. Oh, man.
hold on.
The oscillating weight.
Wait, hang on.
Let me get that oscillating weight out of there.
Okay. Oh
you see
shit,
that?
that's boss. Yeah,
So
wait,
that's
hang
your
on. I can go
column
even
wheel.
further. Yeah, that's the most zoom I
Right?
got. Yeah, right here with the Maltese Cross
Yeah,
on
the
it.
Maltese Cross
That's
column wheel
sick.
is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, that's sick.
Those are hand finished and extraordinarily hard to hand finish to get all those polished surfaces and everything without burrs. So you have the column wheel, you have just a beautifully finished movement, Geneva seal, which is a big thing for them to get that Geneva seal, which means extra decoration. It also means things like no wire springs. So all their springs are cut from flat steel.
Oh,
and
really?
then hand polished,
No way.
which is
It's not bent from a wire.
not
It's
bent
cut
from a wire.
plate.
It's cut from a plate, and
How the
that's
fuck
part
does-
of
how,
the.
wait, how does that work?
It's a lot of extra work. There's a lot of extra tempering and polishing processes that go into it.
That's crazy.
So all the springs have to be done that way, even the ones you can't see.
Wow, that's crazy. I wish, I mean, we have as good a camera for watches as you can reasonably expect, but like we can't quite capture the finish on the Maltese Cross column wheel. Like that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
I imagine this winding rotor is solid gold
Yes.
as well. That's
Solid gold,
pretty rad.
and it's a large one.
It's a fatty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a I'm still zoomed way in, sorry. Still zoomed way in. It's like as soon as I saw this and I actually put it on, I was like, Rachel must borrow. This rules. It's very, very nice. It's like I don't think it's quite as pretty as like a Royal Oak Jumbo, but it gets pretty close. Oh, there you go. He just popped it right off.
Here is that cool quick release.
That's awesome.
And basically, you're just pulling down on this little spring-loaded deal
no
here, and it
tools
opens
required.
and closes. So it goes on from the front side.
Oh, that's great.
Like so.
Yeah, you can
And
do
you're done.
mad strap changes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm on board with it. In fact, give it over here.
Right?
I'm going to wear that.
That's on there.
I'm
Good.
wearing this for the next 2 weeks because it's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite chronographs out right now.
Yeah,
as far as like a sport chronograph goes,
Yeah.
I would love to have one of those.
It's sweet. What does this go for? Do we know? 20
it
grand
should
or
be on their
something?
site. I think the chronograph is like 30 something new
Let's see.
because it does have their brand new in-house chronograph.
Overseas chronograph on Vacheron's website is loading. They publish their prices, right? You said?
Yeah.
There it is. 27,800.
Yeah.
Crown and Caliber is going to have this one in 2 short weeks.
Yeah.
After I'm done with it.
And it should
you
be
can probably
a good
buy
deal.
it for a good deal. Very cool. Let's jump backwards just a year or 4 from where we were to 1992. They come out with the world's thinnest minute repeater. 200 produced, and it was 3.28 millimeters minute repeater, which is
crazy thin.
crazy thin. So that's the movement.
That's about what Piaget is doing on their ultra thin watches now.
Yeah.
But they don't have any complications. It's just time only.
No,
This
no, no.
has a minute repeater in it.
But this is 3.28 millimeters for the whole watch.
Yeah.
For the movement. Piaget was 3.6 for the whole watch.
Oh, okay.
Still,
It's crazy.
it's a chiming
Crazy
minute
thin.
repeater. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Because you do need to have the big, the large gongs and I'm blanking, but
The striking hammers?
Exactly. Yeah, the hammers and the gongs.
Have we ever had like a real proper musical piece on this show? I don't know if we have. We had alarm
we
watches.
had a
but-
minute repeater. However, it had a closed case back,
Oh yeah.
so you couldn't
really
see
see
the parts. Yeah.
2004. They get a new headquarters that looks like what modern watch headquarters look like. Is this where you worked?
Yes, that's where I worked.
Is it a nice
in
place?
Plan-le-Wout.
Is it nice?
Plan-le-Wout?
Plan-le-Wout?
Very nice. Yeah.
What's it like?
Plan-le-Wout?
To go in there? It looks like laboratory kind of status.
It's absolutely gorgeous. You walk in and it has staircases that are glass that go up multiple floors and go down also into, it's kind of built into a hillside. So if you go down, that's where you'll find the repair. So any watch that goes to Switzerland for repair will go there. And that's where I worked. Down there is not so new and futuristic. We have all the antique tools and all the old machines that are necessary to do this kind of restoration work. But still, it looks out into the field and is absolutely gorgeous. They also have on, I think it was the 4th floor, cafeteria. And all your meals.
Are you always
food and
telling the
beverage.
chefs to do better and they can always be better?
They were pretty amazing, actually. I had some amazing meals there, all subsidized by the company, including beer and wine for lunch.
Nice.
Yeah. So not too many of the young watchmakers were partaking.
Yeah.
But the older guys,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Oh,
they
if you're tenured,
they'll have a wine with lunch. Yeah.
You're tenured. You're like, fuck it.
Yeah.
2011, we're jumping forward to. They did a couple things in the mid 2000s, but they really focused on customization. I found it seems like maybe you can speak to this. Like, I just have a note from 2008 that they have over 700 possible options of combinations of things you can order from them.
Yeah.
Is this basically because like most of these watches are made to order, and so you can kind of have it your way?
Yeah. So over the years, they were commissioned by lots of very wealthy, powerful people. They have an extensive list of collectors that had them create some pretty complex complications just for them. So they've amassed this knowledge of how to make these complications, whether it's, I don't want this feature to be standard. I want it to jump in this way and then do whatever at the end. I want it to come back all the way from 31 days to...
It's one thing to get a custom strap or a custom dial, but like custom movement shit, that's crazy.
Custom complications, extraordinarily expensive. And usually when people are doing that, it'll be like, oh, well, now this is the most expensive watch we've ever produced. And then the next guy orders something and, well, now this is the most expensive watch we've ever produced. So they've amassed this great amount of knowledge over the years of how to make some really unique complications.
Who I found in America, actually, RGM has optional complications on some of their watches, which I think is kind of cool if you're ordering that shit. That's
exactly.
Pretty badass. 2011... World Time, which we have one, and it's very pretty. The World Time is super cool. All the time zones at once. Who did this first, Vacheron or Patek? Because Patek has a pretty cool World Time as well.
I don't know who did the World Time first. This is a newer model.
Yep. Oh. Can we make it a little darker?
Yeah.
Darker? Yeah, there you go. It's very, very cool. And very pretty.
Sorry, it's tough with these with the DeBlanc clasps.
Yeah.
To get them to lay flat.
So wait, how does this work, Cameron?
Is that focused?
Oh, there it is. It is now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So how does reading all of them work? Do you just like spin a dial and that's it?
Exactly. I mean, this is all operated through the crown. You see, there's no
it's pretty
extra
thick,
pushers.
Though. Yeah, it's pretty thick.
Yes. So you have their in-house automatic here, and then on the front they created the World Time. So all the extra complications were added to the front of that movement.
So, but what I'm wondering is like, what are the complications? Like, what moves when you spin the crown here?
Okay.
Like, how does like setting your World Time actually work?
Yeah.
Because like I get it, you can see all of them at once, and you can like work your way around the dial. But like, I imagine that's not the cool thing.
So, you see, you have a...
Wait, move a little to your left.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm going to move the hands right now.
Uh-huh.
You'll also notice the 24-hour disc is turning on the outside there.
Uh-huh. So the 24-hour disc is basically a GMT?
Yes.
Oh no, it's changing this. Wait.
You can also jump. You see here how the disc is changing as well with all of your cities.
So, do you just?
Let me get this running.
I'm still so confused. Do you just like find your city on the dial and that's it? Is that the point?
Yeah.
Just like, okay, I'm in Moscow, so I put Moscow at 12, and that's that. Is that pretty much it? And then the rest of it just sort of works?
Well, once you align it, you can always look at the dial.
Right.
And every city has an arrow.
Every city has an arrow.
That is pointing to its time.
Oh, okay.
On the outer track.
Got it.
So your hands are not going to tell you anything as far as the
so
cities
wait, so
go.
where do you set, what do you set to where you're at? That this bottom little arrow here, at the 6 o'clock position, there's an arrow. So where do you set your location? Oh no, just kick that camera.
So you're going to want to set the hour and minute hand to your time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what we got here. We got 9 a.m. Just about.
Yeah.
So
you set that. Sorry if I'm dwelling on this, but like this is a watch that like it looks complicated, but also simple, and like I think there's more to it than just. Have we confused Cameron?
No.
I turned this camera. Sorry. Oh boy. Well, while you're working on that, let's talk about the ultra thin mechanical alarm that they came out with, which is extremely cool. This is, come on, pictures. Oh my God. Forget it. They made a mechanical alarm. Let's skip to. Oh boy. Oh boy, it's all gone wrong. We've hit the skids. How about this? This will tide you over. This is the most complex watch ever made. The Vacheron reference 57260. It has 57 complications, people, on the front and the back. It's a pocket watch. It is almost comically thick if you look at it in the side profile. But it has a legitimate 57 complications. In fact, I found on the Wikipedia page, which is very funny, the list of complications. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will tell you that 6 are for time measurement, 7 are for a perpetual calendar, 8 are for a Hebrew calendar, 9 are for an astronomical calendar. There's a lunar calendar, a religious calendar, a 3-column wheel chronograph, a 7-function alarm, a Westminster Carillon striking. What the fuck is that, Cameron?
Okay, so what you're going to have is basically like your grandfather clock.
Yeah.
And actually, pull it up because I don't remember exactly the carry-on or whatever.
That's this. Westminster carry-on chiming with 5 gongs and 5 hammers.
So more musical notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a grand sonnet. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Look at this. These are all the functions in one watch.
Yeah.
57 complications.
This thing, I've actually seen it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Is it still at Vacheron, like in a museum or something? Or is it a customer piece?
So a lot of these pieces either stay at the manufacturer because they're in somebody's collection, but they just own it. They're just like the keeper of it, you know?
I just want my name on the building. I don't want the building at my house.
Yeah. Exactly. So a lot of times these pieces will find their way back to the manufacturer if it's just for service or maybe safekeeping, things like that. So I've seen a couple of very complex. I also saw the Marcus, the most complicated pocket watch at Audemars Piguet as well, and that one was in there for a routine service, but the watchmaker had it for like 8 months already, and it was just a fraction of the way into the service. That was probably going to be like a 2 or 3 year service.
So this says the price agreed between the company and the client is confidential and not been disclosed. However, various sources estimate the price to be in excess of $10 million. It was built for a single client whose personal details are confidential and is only described as a major watch collector.
Yeah.
It is it's 98 millimeters. Well, that's actually not that huge for a pocket watch, right?
Yeah,
it's big,
very thick. So usually what they do is they have a case for it.
50 millimeters thick.
So they have a case for it, and you would pretty much keep this thing on your desk.
Yeah.
And even if it was on your desk, you'd probably want it under some kind of glass
security
system.
Yeah, it's 98 millimeters in diameter, and it has 2,800 components and 242 joules. Oh my God! Wait, what's the perpetual calendar? Does it say how often you have to correct it? Because this says the moon phase needs a correction every 1,000 years.
Oh, so the perpetual calendar?
Yeah.
You've got.
I mean, it probably goes for a really long time. Gregorian, perpetual calendar, day name, month name, retrograde date, leap year, and 4-year cycle display. It's probably like 400 or 500 years. I mean, it's probably a crazy amount.
Exactly, because you're on the Gregorian calendar.
So now that's the craziest thing. So what else has Crown and Caliber sent us? Did you figure out our world time?
Yeah, so it's not actually decoupling.
Okay. Oh.
For the for changing your time zone, basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's stuck together right now.
Oh, whoops. Oops.
I'm not sure what had happened, but it'll need some service on that.
Okay.
The front mechanism.
All right. Well, we'll let them know that. What else have they sent us that we have not discussed? Anything?
Yeah.
From their modern line. What do you got there?
So, in all of these watches, I know we were talking about the wire springs earlier. How you cannot have a wire spring in a watch with Geneva seal. So in this watch, you have your date there, and let's do this. Get this guy going. You've got your day and date on the dial, and you have a jumping retrograde.
It's like a double retrograde day and date.
So up top, you've got 31 days. Down below, you have every day of the week. And so we'll just bring the hands around. And you've got all these little parts under the dial that will allow this watch to jump
It's a good. You know what I like about that jump?
Did that not jump?
No, it did, but it didn't. It didn't jump with a snappiness. It was a smooth jump. Like it probably, let's see, in real time, it probably took, I don't know, get pretty close to midnight, and let's see how long. Get to like 11 p.m. and let's see if it starts going. Where does it jump? Right there. So it really jumps at like 11:53.
So that jumped early.
Mm-hmm. A little early. Does that mean it's broken?
It's not broken. However,
needs an adjustment.
That's not allowed when it comes out of the service center or from manufacturer. But what happens is you have these very long wire springs, and they're heat treated and tempered and highly polished. They're touching these star wheels, and the part is jumping. And then at one point, you're actually going to have a cam that's going to allow it to snap all the way back. So we can do that as well. But all of that is done by hand. It's hand tuned. So these parts are made
when it jumps is done by hand.
When it jumps, the amount of tension on the spring when it jumps, all of these things are tuned by hand. So they're very hard to service, and they're also very hard to make. It's a complex thing that you'll find in a lot of the Vacheron watches. These jump mechanisms and these really complex wire springs, which again are not wire springs, flat steel springs that were cut from a single plate instead of a wire spring like you'd use today.
That's wild. I can't believe that they're cut from these flat plates. That's so crazy.
So I'm going to run this through a little bit while you talk.
You think you just need some exercise? I just put on the solid gold Overseas, not chronograph, but it's got a leather band and a gold strap. I want to put this thing under the camera because I actually think this is real pretty. Hang on, I'm gonna put it back on. And this thing is, I've been wearing the Overseas chronograph, but I'm really kind of digging the thinness of the non-chronograph one. Like, the more I wear watches, the more I start to respect a nice, like, it doesn't need to be a world record thin, but I do like the thinner cases. I think I'm over the big chunkiness a little bit. The giant oversized cases. I think I've hit a maximum wall.
Okay.
You got success?
So now we're on Sunday down there at the bottom of the dial.
Uh-huh. Oh, that seemed to happen right on time.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
So it's starting a little early on the jump, but it's completing just at the right time.
How neat.
It should jump a little quicker than this one is jumping right now. This is taking 45 minutes to jump, and this one's taking, I think it was 15 minutes is what I saw on there.
That's look, you could.
But a little tuning on the springs.
They could do better. There's always better.
Yeah. Well, what happens is those springs are jumping every single day, so they're being bent and then they're coming back. So you end up with little burrs on the ends of those springs that at every service they're hand polished again and retuned. Every time you polish them, you remove a little material, and then you have to hand tune the spring again.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The last one is small, but I think maybe the heaviest watch they sent us. It's got to be platinum, right? It feels platinum.
This
heavy.
one is white gold.
Oh, really? It's super, super heavy. It's got this lovely cushion case. And it's got a small, is that a second time zone, bottom right? What is on the bottom left, Cameron?
That's your day-night indicator.
Oh.
So you've got a second time zone and a day-night. So at the bottom, I believe, what do we have? A star and a...
It looks like a star or a sun and a black circle.
Right. So it should be day at top, I believe, for a sun, and then at the bottom, a moon for night.
Pull it further away from the camera if you can. Yeah, see,
there we go.
It's really a very pretty, like...
Yeah.
This is sort of like... When I think of Vacheron, I think of like, that's simple, but for some reason, that's just very, very attractive. Like, they really do simple really well. Just very clean.
Classic hands.
And it looks expensive.
Yeah.
Maybe I know
Feels
that because I picked it up
too.
because it's really heavy, but it looks expensive. And the scroll work on the gold winding rotor was really, really nice.
Yeah.
Really cool. These things are expensive.
Yeah,
they
should be
cheap, and they should be because they're made to a very, very high standard. It could always be better.
Yeah. And whenever you get into a precious metal watch with any kind of complication like this, they're going to be quite rare.
Yeah.
You know, out of the 23,000 watches that they're producing,
Like a lot of them are just like
a lot of them are going to be a stainless steel Overseas, or one of the base model manual wind patrimonies, and that would be precious metal, but no complication. It's just either a manual wind or an automatic. When you start getting into a precious metal complicated watch, the price shoots up dramatically, and it really limits the number of buyers out there, and it also limits the number they can produce because each one of these is hand finished.
Yeah.
So to hand finish all those extra components and make it the way that they make it is very hard.
But are even the steel stuff, like that's all hand finished too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's all the same standard. It's just like at a certain point you're adding complications.
Yeah, at a certain point you're adding complications. You're adding a slightly larger case as well when you have complications usually. So if it's precious metal, it's going to be more money. And some of these precious metal complicated watches that are not like the grand complications, but like perpetual calendars and things like that, they might only be making 30 a year of a perpetual calendar in a gold case.
Compared to how many IWC perpetual calendars.
Yeah, yeah.
And even those are expensive.
Yeah.
But
so for that price, it's not that bad considering you'll probably be the only person that you'll ever see wearing this watch.
That's probably true. None of these watches except this, I've seen like maybe one or two Overseas out there ever.
Yeah.
But none of the other ones have I ever actually seen on a person.
Yeah. I've seen a lot out there just because I worked.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, yeah.
The people that are bringing in a watch for service, they own one. So
yes.
But out there, not in relation to Vacheron, I've seen very few.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, check these. These are all going back to Crown and Caliber, so you can buy them there. We'll let them know about the world time. I'm sure it'll be fine. And do we have another? No, I don't think so. Right. That's all.
Well, we should show their manual wind because you don't have a big oscillating weight in the way.
Okay.
This is their in-house manual wind movement. Gorgeous movement. The engineering on it, it was engineered to be extra thin. It's not like considered an extra thin movement, but it is very thin for a manual wind. You can see the case there. Quite thin. But just a beautifully finished movement. Geneva seal again. Gorgeous, right?
Yeah, I like it. I just like that the winding crown is on that corner. I think that's a fun detail.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really have to be. I mean, actually, I guess it does unless you want to redesign the entire movement for your angled case, right?
Yeah, to use the same movement.
Yeah, that's true. It does have to be on the corner.
Yeah.
Still, it looks cool. It's a fun place for it.
So one other thing I think that's worth noting about the complex watches, Vacheron has the Grand Complication Workshop, and when I worked there, I went into the Grand Complication Workshop and met with the watchmakers there. 2 watchmakers. 1 old watchmaker, 1 young watchmaker. They had the entire room, probably 40 foot by 40 foot. Plenty of benches, only 2 benches occupied with tools. So this is a big room, 2 guys in it.
Yeah.
They work alone, just the 2 of them. One's the older guy who's been working on the ground complications for probably 30 or 40 years at the Vacheron workshop. The other one is newer. He's been there for maybe 5 years at that time. And you can tell the older watchmaker has a bench full of handmade tools. The other guy has a very clean, tidy bench with very few tools on it. As the years progress, he'll make a tool for everything that he needs to accomplish. To hold this part, in order to file an edge, he'll make a tool for it. So by the end of his time there, he'll have a bench just like the other guy. The other guy will have retired and he'll be long gone. But eventually he'll get to that point where he's
Why are all
working
the
like
other
that.
benches empty? Is the demand not there to get more people into that? It's just that hard.
Yeah, they can't find people to do it. So they have their own huge workshop in there that's just absolutely gorgeous. And the 2 of them working together and basically a transfer of knowledge from one to the next.
So wait, so those 2 people would have made this crazy thing? The 57-260?
What year was that produced?
2015.
2015? Yeah. The 2 of them together. There would have been people machining parts, the raw parts. But as far as those raw parts go, The only two people that would have ever handled those parts are those two guys.
That's crazy.
In that workshop.
And that goes for every grand complication.
Yeah.
And that's how many watches a year?
Grand complications probably pretty low. Maybe 2 watches a year.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's a crazy world, people. If you want the only thing of something, you have enough money. It is crazy. Well, that's Vacheron and some insider knowledge from Cameron. Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna see you next week with our wrap up, last episode. It's gonna be our peace out episode next week. Thanks for listening. It's Watch and Listen. See you later.